Twyford.
Just to follow on from Darian Fenton, I mean, it has to be noted, I think, that this bill is squeaking through in the last gasp of this parliamentary term, really, when it's been sitting around in this House, going back, the issue's been on the table in this House since 2009. And while we are supporting this bill, sir, we regret the fact that it's taken so long to progress. And if we're going to speak plainly about this, I think we have to acknowledge that it is the root of the problem that's held the bill up for so long is Stephen Joyce's unwillingness to risk being perceived as nanny state. That's basically what it is. And in Stephen Joyce's own words, it's the optics. He was so concerned about any public perception that this bill would be perceived as nanny state, as too much of an intrusion on people's right to drink and drive, that he was willing to ignore official advice that this bill, these provisions, would save on average 3.4 lives per year, 3.4 fatalities. And that is the advice, sir, that the social cost of the injuries the injuries and fatalities caused by people who have been driving over or within the legal blood alcohol limit from 80 to 50 milligrams of alcohol per 100 millilitres of blood for drivers over 20, that is the social cost. 61 fatalities, 244 serious injuries, 761 minor injuries every year caused by at-fault drivers who've been drinking. Social cost of these injuries and fatalities, $446 million. So the provisions in this bill alone would save, according to the projections that have been made, 3.4 lives on average, 64 injury-causing crashes, and save $200 million in social costs over the 10 years. And that is the cost. That is the cost of delaying this legislation at least 4 years, sir. So we find that regrettable, and I note that there's another echo, actually, of the same dynamic at work with the proposal that was made by Ministry of Transport officials about 3 years ago to make life jackets, marine life jackets, mandatory for recreational boaties after a string of appalling drownings, including one with a whole family, I think, on the Manukau Harbour about 3 years ago. And the Transport Minister told the officials to withdraw that material, that advice and those recommendations to make life jackets mandatory for recreational boaties and remove it from the paper that went to Cabinet. And that advice included the view that making life jackets mandatory would save 10, 12 lives a year, sir. So, yep, we support this bill, and it's long overdue, and as previous speakers have said, this will simply bring us up to speed with other jurisdictions that we often compare ourselves with. I wanted to just come to the point that a couple of other speakers have referred to, and that is the decision made by the government to to basically make it a civil offence instead of a criminal offence. And Mike Sabin, in his comments, seemed to be making the argument that somehow by making the alcohol blood infringements that fall between the 80 and 50 milligrams, making that a civil offence would somehow provide greater certainty and speed of consequence, and that would therefore act as a deterrent. It doesn't seem like a very compelling argument to me that someone, when they're drinking in a bar, contemplating driving home after a few drinks, are going to think that because it's a civil offence and not a criminal offence, that it's acting as more of a deterrent. I don't find that very convincing, and I didn't serve on the Select Committee, so if the Minister and the Chair or others who served on the committee who heard the evidence would like to explain further, I'd certainly be keen to hear that explanation, sir. I think one of the interesting clauses in the bill is, thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the other interesting clauses deals with the clause 13 deals with the power of an enforcement officer to immobilise a vehicle in certain circumstances, and I just thought that was worth pointing out. Currently, an enforcement officer may immobilise a vehicle or basically forbid the person to drive if the result of an evidential breath test indicates that they're over the 400 micrograms. And what the bill does, Sarah, is it essentially broadens that clause out and says that there only has to be an evidential breath test that's positive, and the officer has the right to either forbid them to drive or to immobilise the vehicle. So I'll leave it there, Mr. Chairman. We support this bill, but we have regret that it's taken so long to get to this stage.
Members, we come to the vote on part. I'm going to call Jamie Lewis. The question is that the question be now put. Those of that opinion will say aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. A party vote's called for. Ask the clerk for a party vote.
New Zealand National.
59 in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes opposed.
Green Party.
14 in support.
New Zealand First.
7 opposed.
Maori Party.
3 in favour.
Mana.
1 in favour.
United Future.
1 in favour.
Brendan Horan.
A point of order.
Mr. Chairman, I just wonder if you could perhaps give the Green Party the opportunity to check and make sure their votes are accurate, that this is a closure motion. This is not the substantive vote. This is the closure motion.
I thank you for that. I'm sure the Green Party understands where we're at. So. Members, the ayes are 78, the noes are 41. The question will be put. We first have the Minister's amendment to Part 1 as set out on SOP number 479. The question is that the amendment be agreed to. Those of that opinion will say aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. A party vote's called for. Ask the clerk for a party vote.
New Zealand National.
59 in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes in favour.
Green Party.
14 in favour.
New Zealand First.
7 opposed.
Maori Party.
Favour.
Mana.
1 in favour.
United Future.
1 in favour.
Brendan Horan.
Members, the ayes are 112, the noes are 7. The amendment is agreed to. The question now is that Part 1 is amended stand part. Those of that opinion will say aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. A party vote's called for. Ask the clerk for a party vote.
New Zealand National.
59 in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes in favour.
Green Party.
So 14 in favour.
New Zealand First.
7 opposed.
Maori Party.
3 in favour.
Mana.
1 in favour.
United Future.
1 in favour.
Brendan Horan.
Members, the ayes are 112, the noes are 7. Part 1 is amended will stand part. We now move to Part 2. This is debate on clauses 14 and 15 and schedules 1 and 2, and the question is a Part 2 stand part. Ian Galloway.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Part 2 is appropriately titled